Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mindy here and I hope you're doing well. I'm wishing you a very happy holiday season, a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and a healthy, happy, prosperous, full of laughter 2022. Today I'm going to talk about all of the fragrances that were launched in 2021 that I brought into my collection. I'm going to share my ranking with you, my rating, and pass along my thoughts and opinions on each one of these fragrances. I have to say that none of these ended up being a 10 out of 10 for me, sadly. I reserved the 10 out of 10 rating, even a 9 out of 10 rating for my very favorite fragrances, the best of the best, and nothing launched in 2021 that I've tried yet has met that expectation. That's not to say that I'm not missing something here, so I would love to hear from you what fragrances you consider to be a 10 out of 10 that were launched in 2021, and I probably need to get my hands on them. So one last disclaimer that I want to make is that I have very specific tastes and preferences. Generally speaking, I gravitate towards those warm, comforting, cozy, delicious gourmand fragrances. Those are my favorite types of fragrances to have in my collection, and not all of these are that. So while many of these didn't work out for me, or they're not my tastes, that doesn't mean they won't be for you. This is my personal opinion, my ranking, not being a fan of florals, fruity gourmands, or sometimes floriental type fragrances. Those may be likes, but not always loves. So just want to share that disclaimer before I get started that your tastes and preferences may be a little bit different than mine. Please don't take this personally, and now I will jump right in. First up is Velvet Tonka, and this is by the house of BDK. Yes, I like some of the BDK fragrances, but this just doesn't happen to be one of them that I've fallen in love with. I've played with it time and time again, and this just is not my style. Where I usually enjoy almond scents like Girl of Now, where I usually enjoy scents that have tobacco, I'm thinking specifically of Bois Doré, Nirvana Amethyst. This one and the composition and the scent just simply did not work out for me. This is smooth, it's boozy, it's nutty. I can't quite put my finger on why this doesn't work out for me. It could be the rose oil. I don't know if it's just the way the tobacco mixes in here. Something in this isn't my style, and for that reason, I am rating this fragrance a 4 out of 10. That is a very harsh rating. I know this is very loved, but again, not my style, not my preference. This is one that has a little bit of a vintage vibe to it. The nomenclature makes complete sense to me, Velvet Tonka. I can really relate to the velvet term in that name. It makes me think of old furniture that might be velvet in a lounge or a hotel room, something along those lines. Again, this just didn't work out for me. I know a lot of people enjoy this one. Velvet Tonka is a 4 out of 10 in my personal opinion. Now next up is Oriana, and this is by Parfums de Marly. This is another one that was released in 2021, and I have to be honest, this one didn't quite work out for me. I've done a video before on 5 reasons why I won't bring this into my collection. Yes, I think Parfums de Marly is an amazing house. They have exquisite fragrances. I'm thinking specifically of Delina. I'm thinking of Herod that's marketed more towards men. Both of those are amazing fragrances. This one just doesn't really fit into what I'm looking for in my perfumes. The 5 reasons I came up with on why I won't bring this into my collection are as follows. 1, I thought it was a nice scent, but it was not a love for me. 2, I found that it has a little bit of a citrusy vibe, a little bit more than I prefer, and I find that that citrus is a little bit at odds with the gourmand notes that are in here, the floral notes that are in here. So some of the notes are orange blossom, raspberry, black currant, there's whipped cream, marshmallow, musk, and amber. Of course, there's the mandarin orange, grapefruit, and bergamot at the top. Just a nice scent, but I just find that those notes don't work well together, in my opinion. 3rd, I just think the price is too high on this one. I don't think that this fragrance is worth the price, and I'll just leave that right there. 4th, I just don't find this one to be unique enough. This one is often compared to Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian, and I really think to come out at that price point that it really has to be a unique fragrance that we haven't seen before. Between the marshmallow in here, the whipped cream, the orange blossom, it just feels like this has been done and that this scent is not unique enough to command the price point that it has. 5th, I just have high expectations of this house. I feel like this is subpar in comparison to some of the other offerings that they have, and for that reason, for those 5 reasons, I don't think this fragrance is full bottle worthy. Now, those were the reasons I came up with quite some time ago. Revisiting it again, I stand by those reasons, and this is not a fragrance I would move forward with a full bottle of. Again, this is Oriana by Parfums de Marly. Coming in at number 19 is Fantasy Intense. I really, really wanted to love this fragrance. I am absolutely rooting for Britney Spears. I think that the Fantasy line has some great perfumes. I really enjoy Midnight Fantasy the most. I am a gourmandie. I do like sweet perfumes, but with Fantasy Intense, I find that it goes way too deep into that sweet direction for me to enjoy. Now, I find that the fruity notes in this one, specifically the pear, the kiwi, and the lychee, don't really mix very well with the really gourmand notes that are in here, specifically the white chocolate and the cupcake. This is just one of those instances where I think this fragrance can go a little bit too sickly sweet for my tastes. My opinions on this one do make me very sad. I think it is a nice perfume for people who like really, really sweet scents, but from my perspective, this one just doesn't work on my skin. The other angle that I look at this fragrance with is that I do like the scent out of the bottle, but for some reason when I put this on my skin, when I put it on my clothes, something happens and those sharp fruity notes are a little too much for me. Eventually I'm going to want to get this fragrance into the hands of somebody who will really truly appreciate it. For me, this one is a 5 out of 10 and not one of my favorite releases for 2021. Next up is another fragrance from the House of Parfums de Marly, and this is Delena Larosse. This is another situation where I only have a sample because I decided not to move forward with a full bottle. This is number 18 on my list, and while I can recognize that there are high quality ingredients in here, that there is a very pretty floral fruity composition in this one. I definitely recognize the underlying DNA from Delina. I do have a strong preference of the original Delina fragrance over Delena Larosse. For me, I do have Lady Diana by the House of Alexandria Fragrances. It is a clone of Delina, and I do actually kind of prefer Lady Diana to the original Delina simply because it's slightly more fresh than the original Delina itself. Now, in my humble opinion, with Delena Larosse, I find that those aquatic notes, that watery floral composition in this one, take center stage for the fragrance, and for me, it's just not fully complete. I feel like I'm missing something. I need a little bit more of a foundation, something more in the base to round out this fragrance, and for that reason, it just didn't work out for me. Delena Larosse does remind me of a very pretty smelling hotel. It is a nice scent, and I definitely understand why people do enjoy this one, but for me, I would say it's probably a 6 out of 10. Just didn't work out for me. This is Delena Larosse by Parfums de Marly. Next up, number 17 on my list is Vie by Ellis Brooklyn, and this is one that I'm not in love with. I have to be totally honest here, but it is one that has intrigued me quite a bit, and when I do wear it, I find myself sniffing it over and over again. What I immediately noticed from this fragrance is there is a prominent honey note. I also get a little bit of booziness from this one. There is rum in the fragrance, and there is a noticeable cinnamon accord. I also know that bran is a listed note in this fragrance, and while I can't discreetly tell you what bran smells like, I have an idea, thinking of wheat bread, you know, whatever. I do feel like I'm picking that up in this perfume, and it's unique, it's unusual, it's different from everything else that I have in my collection. My take on this one is that people that really enjoy boozy notes in their fragrance may like this. People that really enjoy honey might like this fragrance. And people that enjoy a little bit of a vanillic spiciness in their perfumes might like this perfume as well. After having this one for around 5 months or so, I don't find myself reaching for it. And for that reason, I do rate this fragrance a 6 out of 10. Again, this is Vie by Ellis Brooklyn. Coming in at number 17 on the list is Ariana Grande, God is a Woman. Now, Ariana Grande has been killing it with releases in 2020 and 2021, so naturally I had a curiosity with this perfume. What concerned me a little bit was that I did see that pear was in the note structure with this one. I wanted to see how that played out, but I have to say the way the pear is done here is not my favorite way to have pear in a perfume. I do find that this one is a little bit linear, so it stays the same throughout the wear. And again, it is very pear-centric. People who like pear, a juicy, sweet pear, are probably really going to enjoy this perfume. For me, this is fresh, it's juicy, it's sweet. You can definitely pick up a little bit of musk. I also pick up a little bit of floral, but that is in the background to me. Some people say this one smells like cloud. I don't feel that way, but if you like that fresh quality that you get from the cloud fragrance, you may like this one. This is another one that I find to be nice, but pear isn't my favorite note in a fragrance, and I prefer a little bit more dimension than I get out of this one. For that reason, I do rate this one a 6 out of 10. Not one of my favorite releases from 2021, but pear lovers are gonna enjoy it. God is a Woman by Ariana Grande. Coming in at number 15 is Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper by the House of Kayali. Now, speaking about fragrance houses that are killing it in 2021, this is absolutely one of those. Kayali, by my calculations, has released 4 new fragrances this year, all of which I'll talk about here. They've really grown their collection, and it seems like fragrance enthusiasts go wild every time there is a Kayali release, and I'm no exception. I always get very thrilled to see the releases that are coming out from the House of Kayali. Now, I have to say that Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper is probably one of my least favorites of the 2021 releases. That's not to say that this is a bad fragrance in any way, shape, or form, but it really has everything to do with my taste and my preferences. I feel that rose is a pretty prominent note in this perfume, and that's a note that I can be a little bit finicky with. If you enjoy those rose-centric, floral, spicy type fragrances in the vein of Delina Exclusive or Roses Vanille by Mancera or Oud Bouquet by Lancome, I do think you're absolutely gonna love this release. For Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper, I do think a lot of people will love this scent profile. Just didn't really work out for me. I've done a prior declutter video on this one, and I consider this to be a 6.5 out of 10. Again, that has everything to do with my taste and preferences, not this being a bad perfume. Next up is Thank You Next 2.0. This is by Ariana Grande, and this is just a body spray, a body mist that I picked up at Walgreens because it was at a very affordable price. Of course, like others from the house, from Ariana Grande's release, I was just curious what this would be like and wanted to see if it was my type of perfume. Thank You Next is an amazing offering for somebody who really likes strawberry in their fragrances. I also pick up a little bit of the apple juice in here, but definitely the key player in this fragrance is strawberry. This does have a woody base. It's got sandalwood in it. It also is sweet because there is marshmallow in this perfume. But for me, the real focus of the scent is that strawberry that I'm picking up. I like this. It's a pretty scent, but I rarely find myself reaching for this. I did think it was a great find at Walgreens. You can pick this up at other drugstore locations at a very affordable price if you pick up the body mist. It is a nice value, but I find this to be a 6.5 out of 10. This is Thank You Next 2.0 by Ariana Grande. Next on my list, coming in at number 13, is Invite Only Amber by the House of Kayali. Yes, another fragrance by the House of Kayali. This is second on the list, so there are more to come. Invite Only Amber is in a similar vein to Angel Share by the House of Kilian. I do find this one to be a little bit more smooth, a little bit more gentle, where I think some people may find Angel Share to be sharp, a little bit more heavy on the cinnamon. This has a more gentle feel to it, almost like you would get from the scent of a candle. Yeah, I feel like this one may be more in the realm of a spicy holiday candle. It has cinnamon, it has vanilla, it has an ambery warmth to it. I do find this to be a very pretty scent. There's also the slightest bit of sweetness here. There's cherry, chocolate, hazelnut, honey. So if you tend to gravitate towards those somewhat spicy holiday type scents and drinks, I do think this perfume will be right up your alley. And while I do think this is a great perfume, it isn't one I'm reaching for a ton at this point in time. I do think I'd prefer this one as a candle or a room freshener. So for that reason, I give this fragrance a 6.5 out of 10. This is Invite Only Amber by Kayali. Coming in at number 13 on my list is yet another release from 2021. This is La Belle Les Parfums by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Of course, the original La Belle had a ton of hype. It was hugely popular in the fragrance community, and this one was as well in the early months of 2021. I personally do like the original, but I don't wear it a lot. I do find this one to be a little bit more well-rounded in my personal opinion. I find that this one is a little bit more cozy, it's a little bit more warm, it has more character, it has more depth, and for that reason, I have been reaching for this one a little bit more than the original fragrance. In full transparency, I'm not finding myself wearing this one all that much either anymore. Now, I will say I made a mistake in the summer. It was a very, very hot day. I put this one on and I found it ended up being a little bit cloying. Since that day, I haven't really wanted to wear this one much, and part of it is that there are other fragrances in my collection that I do reach for more than this one. I still think it is a nice fragrance. I consider it to be about a 7 out of 10 for me. This is La Belle Les Parfums by Jean-Paul Gaultier. All right, number 11 on this list is Angel Ice Star by the House of Mugler. And I have to say, I've always had this perception that you are either an angel person or an alien person. I did buy Alien first, and I found that I didn't really feel myself when I wore the original Alien. That prompted me to look a little bit more into Angel, and I now have 3 Angels in my collection, and I really enjoy all 3 of them. This is the kind of house that as they continue to release more Angel fragrances, I will continue to buy more Angel fragrances. One of my very favorites is the Angel EDT. I think I have the 2019 version. Really love the fruitiness and vibrancy in that one. Angel Ice Star is another one that's really good. This one has really impressed me. It has notes of pineapple, coconut, vanilla, praline, and patchouli. So it does have those warm notes that do work into the winter months. But I find this one to be a lot like a pina colada because of that pineapple, because of that coconut. There's this bright fruitiness in this one that really makes it a fun, playful, flirty type fragrance that I reach for a lot in the summer months. This is a great fragrance for somebody looking for a sort of fruity, tropical type fragrance, so it's not one that I would reach for on a daily basis. This is Angel Ice Star by the House of Mugler, and this one I consider to be a 7 out of 10. All right, moving on to number 10 on my list is another fragrance by the House of Kayali. This is Utopia Vanilla Coco. And I have to say, of all of the releases in 2021 from the House of Kayali, this is probably the one that is most in line with my tastes and preferences. This fragrance has a really great mix of white floral notes. It has tuberose, gardenia, jasmine sambac, and those blend very well with the gourmand notes in the perfume, specifically coconut milk and bourbon vanilla. They give this one a tropical, vacation-like scent profile. I have to say, if you're looking for a more suntan oil type perfume, I think Bobbi Brown The Beach more falls into that qualification. But if you're looking for a fun, summery, tropical type vacation scent, I do think this is creamy, it's beautiful, it's a lovely scent that I enjoy wearing. I find this one to be around a 7 out of 10 for me. I do think I'm coming in with a little bit of a bias in that rating because my husband didn't like this fragrance. So personally, I think I would rate this higher than a 7 out of 10 if my husband liked it more. Again, this is Utopia Vanilla Coco by the House of Kayali. All right, now coming in at number 9 on my list is Angelic Elixir by the House of Dua. This was released in 2021, I believe, but it is a clone, a dupe, an inspiration, whatever you want to call it, of the fragrance Angels Share by Kilian. What I'll say is this one has a spicy, boozy, cinnamon type scent profile. It is warm, it's comforting. It's one that I do need to be in the mood to wear. I don't reach for this as a daily wear type fragrance. It's one that I have to really be in the mood for something spicy, something a little bit boozy, but I do think this is a great release, a nice inspiration fragrance. This is Angelic Elixir by the Dua brand. Moving into the number 8 spot is yet another Kayali fragrance. This is Eden Juicy Apple, and this is the latest release from the House of Kayali. This is one that I went into a full depth review on recently, so check that out if you want to hear more about the fragrance. What I'll say here is that this is very nostalgic to me. This fragrance reminds me of a fragrance that Bath & Body Works had many, many years ago. They may still have it, called Country Apple. This one opens with a burst of fruitiness when you first spray it. I definitely get the berries, I definitely get the lychee in this fragrance, but for me, the standout note is that apple, and that's exactly what takes me back to that Country Apple fragrance that I really loved. I find this fragrance to be youthful, it's vibrant, it's playful. Anybody who likes fruitiness in their fragrances is probably really gonna like this one. Now I have to say that I'm not a huge fan of fruity fragrances. I have some, but I prefer a little bit more depth in my fragrances, so I find that this one pairs amazingly with Vanilla 28. That one gives it a little bit more depth, a little bit more dimension, and makes this one totally appropriate year-round. This is another really fun, great release from the house of Kayali, one I think a lot of people will enjoy this holiday season. This is Eden Juicy Apple, and I consider this one to be a 7 out of 10 at this point in time. Coming in at the number 7 spot is Brazilian Crush Cheirosa 40 by the house of Sol de Janeiro. I recently did a review on this fragrance when I was talking about fragrances that are highly rated by Fragrantica users in my collection. This happens to be one of those. This is rated a 4.38 out of 5. I don't know how many users, but that is a very strong rating for a fragrance on Fragrantica. I find this one to be somewhat reminiscent of Vanilla Woods by the 7 Virtues. I also find it to be sort of reminiscent of Kayali Vanilla 28. Now I have to say that I do prefer Vanilla 28 slightly to this one because it has that gourmand depth that I love. It has added dimension from that warm brown sugar that's in there. This one takes a little bit of a different direction. It's more fruity because it has plum and it has cassis in here, but this is a great summer option. It is fruity, it's sweet, it's a great vanilla fragrance, and again, it's rated really, really highly on Fragrantica, which tells me a lot of people really enjoy this one. I personally would rate this one probably around a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a great vanilla fragrance, but it is one I'm not reaching for as much as some of the other vanilla fragrances I have in my collection. This one may work better in the summer months. It is a very affordable perfume, one I think a lot of people really love, and that's apparent from that Fragrantica rating. This is Brazilian Crush Cheirosa 40 by Sol de Janeiro. Coming in at the 6th spot is Atara by Michael Malul London. This is a perfume that I hardly ever hear about in the fragrance community, and it's one that I do find to be underrated. This fragrance has notes of pear, blackcurrant, praline, patchouli, vanilla, and tonka bean, but for me, the key player, the most prominent note in this perfume is the pear. I have to say that I really love the way pear is done here in comparison to other fragrances like God is a Woman by Ariana Grande. I find this one to be a little bit more dense, a little bit richer and deeper, probably because of the gourmand notes that I mentioned before. This falls into that crowd-pleasing category for me. It's similar to La Vie Est Belle in that way. It's similar to Angel EDT in that way. They don't smell the same, but I do find the crowd-pleasability factor to be similar here in that this is an easy reach fragrance. It's a kind of fruity, patchouli type fragrance that you can wear anytime, any place, and smell pretty. This is one that I have received a compliment on, and that makes me feel like other people find this to be crowd-pleasing as well. This one to me is warm, it's delicious, it's sweet. I find this fragrance to be an 8 out of 10. This is Atara by Michael Malul London. Coming in at the number 5 spot is Vanilla Bourbon by the House of Mixbar. I've spoken about this one on my channel before, so I won't go into a lot of detail here, but one of my favorite things about this perfume is that I find it to be a soft, woody, slightly boozy vanilla fragrance that is an easy reach. This is one that is not offensive. I think most people would appreciate the scent profile of this perfume, and so for that reason, I find it to be quite crowd-pleasing. I do find this to be a great layering fragrance. Now, I don't layer my fragrances a ton, but sometimes if I have a fragrance that has sharper edges, it needs to be softened up a little bit, I do think this is a great perfume to reach for, to add a little bit of a gentle touch to a fragrance that might be a little bit more on the harsh side. I would probably rate this fragrance a 7.5 out of 10 just based on scent profile, but I have to say because this one is affordable, because this one is accessible at Target, I do think that that gives it a little bit of a boost, and I will rate this one an 8 out of 10. This is Vanilla Bourbon by Mixbar. Taking the number 4 spot is another fragrance by Ariana Grande. This is Cloud Intense, and this is the fragrance that I do prefer over the original Cloud. Simply put, Cloud Intense is an amplified version of the original Cloud fragrance, which was already nice, but I do think it lacked some power, some strength. I find this one to be sweeter, it's stronger, it's almost like the notes are just turned up a notch in this perfume. This sort of takes me back to that Diet Coke analogy I've spoken about before. Yeah, I'll probably pick Diet Coke or Coke Zero in most circumstances if I go out to eat or whatnot, but in some cases I really do enjoy having a real Coke. I think Coke is great, it's sweet, and that's sort of how I feel about this fragrance. This is the calorie-free, guilt-free version of that analogy. I do think this one has more power, more strength, more longevity, and for that reason, this is the cloud that I prefer the most. If you do like the original cloud, I feel like this one is a safe blind buy simply because it just amps up those notes that we already like and enjoy in the cloud fragrance. I feel like I can probably set free my original cloud because I do prefer this one more. Quick note, I wanted to mention, I do not feel like this or the original cloud fragrance smells a lot like Baccarat Rouge 540. Yeah, I can kind of see where people are coming from with that, in that it's sweet, it's kind of airy, but that's not the case for me. I don't feel like the scent profiles line up very much at all, and so I have to say that this does not smell like Baccarat Rouge 540, and if that's what you're looking for, you may be disappointed. Overall, I rate this one an 8 out of 10. I think it's a nice release from Ariana Grande. This is Cloud Intense. Coming in at the number 3 spot is A Vanilla Affair by the Duo brand. I have to say that I purchased this fragrance after seeing so much buzz on the forums talking about this one, talking about how it's one of the best vanillas people have smelled. I really got a case of FOMO. My curiosity got the best of me and I had to try it for myself. I have talked about this one before in more depth in a former This Not That epic fragrance battle, so if you're interested in hearing about how this compares to Spirituis Double Vanille, please go ahead and check that video out. What I will say here is that this one is very vanilla centric. It has vanilla bean, vanilla pod, vanilla liquor, vanilla rum, and Madagascar vanilla extract. So this fragrance is very vanilla centric. You get the drift. Unfortunately, I haven't tried the Duo brand's Spirituis Double Vanille Inspiration fragrance. I think it's called Vanille Overload. I am curious about that one, but this one does come in fairly close in the sense that it has some booziness to it. It is a very sophisticated type vanilla. This is an 8 out of 10 for me, a fragrance I really enjoy. It's A Vanilla Affair by the Duo brand. Coming in at the number 2 spot is the first fragrance I ever reviewed on my channel. This is La Vie Est Belle Soleil Cristal by the House of Lancome. Now, I love the La Vie Est Belle line. I actually prefer the flankers more than the original. I probably have 4 to 5 flankers that I really enjoy, and this one is no different. Now, to me, this probably comes closest in scent profile to the La Vie Est Belle Le Clot, but there are definitely some differences. This one has ylang ylang and coconut. This one puts me in a cheerful, bright, uplifted mood. It has a little bit of a tropical flair to it. It feels like a vacation scent. It's one that I really enjoy. To be honest, I don't quite understand why people don't rate this one higher. I do think it's a great fragrance. It's one I really enjoy. I consider this one to be around an 8.5 out of 10. This is La Vie Est Belle Soleil Cristal by Lancome. The last fragrance on my list is one that I still don't have a full bottle for. We'll talk about that in a little while. This is Accident à la Vanille by Jousset Parfums. This is another one that I simply purchased because I had seen so much hype, so much buzz about in different forums. It really made me want to check this one out and see for myself if I loved it. This perfume has vanilla listed in each layer of the perfume, so in the top, mid, and base. It also has sandalwood in the mid, as well as Syrax in the base. This is one that is absolutely vanilla-centric in my opinion. It's driving me crazy that I only have a 1 milliliter sample for this one because it's hard to get a sense for how the fragrance will perform, how it wears on the skin. You don't get a chance to spray it all over yourself. So from that angle, I wish I could explore this one a little bit more. Today I'll be focusing on the scent profile of this one. And the scent profile of this fragrance is amazing in my opinion. It's a beautiful, incredible gourmand. It's a warm, buttery vanilla. I find this one to be sort of like a toasted toffee type scent with a hint of nuttiness to it. It's a delicious smelling gourmand. I think most gourmand lovers will really enjoy this scent profile. I've been contemplating for quite some time whether I'll bring this into my collection or not, and I still haven't really decided. It is a great vanilla, but I think I need to explore another sample just a little bit more to understand how it sprays, how it wears on the skin, how it wears on clothing before I move forward with a full bottle. Again, I find the price point to be a little bit high on this one, so I want to be sure before I move forward with a full bottle, just because there are so many others on my list. But my reaction right now is that this one is an 8.5 out of 10. It's a great fragrance, a beautiful gourmand, one I think a lot of people will enjoy. This is Accident à la Vanille by Jousset Parfums. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I truly appreciate you. If you enjoyed this video on 2021 releases that I brought into my collection, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I also want to hear from you what fragrances you love from 2021. What were your favorite releases and what is missing from this list? I hope you guys have an amazing holiday season. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate. I hope you have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. And until next time, I'll see you soon.